All right, welcome back for day 10 of our loose leash walking challenge. All right, welcome back to day 10 of our 30-day loose leash walking challenge. Today we are going to be going through how to deal with when your dog is going to start pulling. It's inevitable. How do we deal with it? My name is Kristen from Salty Pack. So most of you guys are probably here because our dogs have had some history about pulling. Remember on that very first video that I talked about how we might have accidentally kind of promoted a little bit of pulling with our dogs. So using that constant tension for our dogs, particularly if they're pulling towards things, remember that movement forward can be reinforcing. The first thing that we're going to try and change from this static pressure that can build up frustration and has probably worked in the past for your dog to pull harder to get to the thing that they want faster is we're going to be introducing a little bit of taps on the equipment that you're using. Different people call this different things, right? We call it taps, just these little kind of taps on the collar. It's a little bit naggy and annoying. It's almost like someone's tapping you on the shoulder, right? It's going to be less pressure than your dog has probably given you pulling through on a static pull, if that makes sense. So it's just a little annoying taps. Some people call it bumps, some people call it reminders, some people call it pressure, whatever feels best for you, but we'll probably refer to it mostly as taps. The taps are going to be a little bit directional, but they're not going to be pulling the dog backwards. But the beauty with having a piece of equipment that you use with your dog, such as a flat collar or a slip leash or a prong collar, is because they're very directional, we can give different sort of directional feedback with the taps, but it's not going to be pulling our dog back. So remember that if we kind of keep our dog in that general vicinity of this little safety bubble, thank you, Bear, this little safety bubble that we want them to be in, think of no taps start inside that bubble. And this is where that leash handling is really important because I want to be able to give my dog feedback if they get too far outside of the bubble out in front. If they get too far out of the bubble outside the bubble over to the side, maybe they want to go sniff something, or even too far outside the bubble to the back, maybe they've stopped to sniff something and we need to keep them moving. I can also use the taps for if they try and come back around on my side, they can come from this angle. If they try and cut out in front of me, they can come from the side. So those taps can be directional. And it's going to be something that I want the dog to figure out how to turn it off themselves. So that you'll see Billy, the golden retriever, in a moment, who we are working on how you would introduce those taps. But again, we'll kind of break it down a little bit further here before you see that demonstration. So the most important thing that we're going to be working on today is making sure that your dog understands what those taps mean. I want your dog to feel like, oh, when I feel that pressure or those taps or bumps or reminders or whatever you're going to be calling it, when I feel that, I just move with that directional pressure and then the tapping stops. So what they will soon figure out is kind of being inside this bubble where only rewards are on offer is going to be the best place for them. And what we're trying to teach them is, hey, anywhere outside of that bubble, unless I've given you a have a sniff cue, which is going to come in a couple of days, unless I've given you a have a sniff cue, directional, annoying tapping pressure starts and it doesn't stop until the dog finds themselves back in that bubble, okay? So you'll see with Billy in a moment that we're just kind of standing around doing nothing, and I just put those little taps on to see if he will move with that pressure. Billy has felt that pressure before, those little taps. So with your dog, if they've never felt it before, the very first time that you put it on, it might be a little bit like, whoa, what is actually happening here? So the important part for your dog to understand is once those taps start, they don't stop until the dog actually makes a difference. So they must have a behavioral change to make the tapping go away, if that makes sense. What I want to be able to theoretically ask your dog is, hey, if the tapping pressure starts, what should you do? I want the dog to easily go, oh, I should follow wherever that tapping directional pressure is coming from, go with that until I find the spot that it stops and I must stay there. So I want your dog to actually feel like they are in control of that tapping pressure once it comes on. So for your first couple of times, it might be a little bit uncomfortable how long it might actually last for. You get different responses with different dogs. Some dogs will stay there in a freeze response going, I have no idea what to do. If it takes about 30 seconds for the very first time that you give directional tapping pressure for your dog to move off with it, and then it stops, it might take 15 seconds the next time, then 10, then 5, and working your way down. You might get some dogs immediately who just go, oh yeah, cool, I know exactly what to do with that. So you'll see a little bit of what that looks like with Billy in the demonstration shortly, but just know that some dogs might take a little bit longer. So remember, for you as the handler, when that tapping starts, it must stay on until your dog moves in the direction that you want them to move. So it can be a little bit uncomfortable to start with, so just buckle up. Giving the taps is all a matter of how it best feels for you. So I generally will do it with like a little bit of like a wrist flick. Some people will use their whole arm if they don't have a lot of wrist dexterity or maybe have had injuries in the past or something. It's whatever feels most comfortable for you. Generally, I'll do a little bit of this tapping pressure just like this. This is definitely one that I want you to practice without your dog first. See if you can get a little bit of those taps just kind of happening for you. That happens really nice and easily, because if you can't do it with just a static thing like a pole or a chair or something, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do it with your dog as well too. So again, yet another handler focused day for you guys today. And then once you feel comfortable after having done a couple of little practices on maybe a pole or a chair or something like that, you can grab your dog, and for sure for today, definitely again, a low distraction environment. Hopefully you've got a backyard or a nice like quiet park that you usually go to. You can use some sort of small balcony area like this one, for example. And make sure that it's nice and low distraction. I don't want your dog getting super amped up by anything necessarily in particular. So once you give the directional tapping pressure, this is all about teaching your dog how to move with that. Where we're going to introduce it in the walk is it's going to come with a little bit of like a heads up. I usually say nope, and then give that little taps. So the nope is a bit of a reminder to the dog of, hey, you're just about to feel that tapping pressure. That gives them a little bit of a chance to go, oh, that's right, I should be coming back into that nice little safety bubble that we've clarified for them. But just for the moment, no commands. We're just showing the dog how to move with that pressure. So that's all that we're kind of doing today. And then as we start to go out for the walks a little bit more, we're going to be introducing the nope or or whatever comes out of your mouth with that tapping pressure to bring them back into that little safety bubble. So particularly for this session, I would say definitely grab your phone. It's going to be a little bit of an awkward one for a few people to kind of get used to. So grab your phone, film yourself on the pole or the chair, make sure that that feels good. Film yourself with your dog. If there's anything that you would like help with, please let us know. This is kind of a more awkward day, so take your time with this one. Make sure to grab your dog who's nice and hungry, grab your dinner or breakfast that they're going to be getting anyways, pop it in your treat pouch or your pocket, just as a reminder. And today, make sure to maybe like have fun, but make sure to keep yourself nice and calm. It's a little bit of an awkward day, so we're going to be creating a little bit of frustration potentially for you and or your dog, because learning and doing things differently can be a little bit awkward. So just like bring a lot of patience into today's session. You've got this. Nice job. So we've got Billy here. He is, I think, like a 1.5, 2-year-old golden retriever. He has been feeling these taps before. We've done quite a lot of sessions with him already. So this will be, like for Billy, a little test of his understanding of the directional taps that we use. And again, this is going to be something that will directly relate to our leash walking, because say Billy gets a little bit too far ahead and I do those little taps that kind of pull him back this way. That brings him back into that nice zone that I want him to be in, just on my left-hand side. Again, he can walk a little bit further ahead, but if he does get a little bit too far out ahead and I give those little taps coming back, that's where I want him to understand that. And remember, the taps can be directional. So like here, he's a little bit too far ahead. If I can just start taps, yes. So once he starts to move back with them, the tapping stops and he'll get a good piece of reward. So for dogs who have never felt this difference in the context of the pressure that comes on, they usually feel static pressure, not this lower intensity tapping. It will be a little bit different for them. So I'm not going to necessarily go for a walk. I kind of just want to get him like a little bit distracted and just use these little taps in this way. Yes. And he can move back towards me. I want to see if you can get like maybe a little bit off to the side here. I'll see if I can, it won't be a great angle, but see if you can get a little bit off to the side and we can go, yes. So it doesn't have to be much movement when you're putting it in with dogs who have never felt this before. Good. You're clearly focused. We're about to go for a walk, so he knows that we usually go down this way. Good. We can even do it from that side. Yes. And the moment that he kind of gives into those little leash taps, pops, bumps, nudges, whatever you want to say. I just call them leash taps. Everybody calls them something different. As once he starts moving into it, oh my goodness, so itchy. That's where the tapping can stop and he gets the reward. So it's just showing him like, hey, don't lean into this pressure, because dogs can also figure out that they can just work into the pressure. Nice job, bud. Good. So we can even do it here. Yes. Yes. That little turn, that's all I wanted. Nice. Yes. And notice a little bit of movement as well, kind of perks up all of that response as well too for him. Yes. Once the tapping goes on, another important piece of this as well too is it must stay on until you have the dog moving in the direction that you want to move. So again, this could just be in your backyard, this could be just outside, if you don't have very much space in the backyard, but try doing these little directional taps in different ways, not with too much movement to start with. So it's going to be tapping start, so if he gets a little bit too far ahead, tap, 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 yes. And it stops once he comes back and responds to that tapping. Again, Billy's a dog that has had a little bit more experience with this, so he will understand how to turn off that pressure a little bit faster. So if the first time you're sitting there like, oh my gosh, this is taking me like 30, 45 seconds, it will get better after the first go, because the first go, dogs are like, this is new and novel, what am I supposed to do with this? Then it gets down to like 15 to 30 seconds. Then it's a 10 second, then it's 5. And then you get Billy that like gets a couple of taps. He's like, oh, sorry. And then he comes back. So it's just starting to introduce a little bit of that. Don't do too much movement or anything. Try and keep it low distraction environment as much as you can to start with. So that's why the backyard is great if you have enough space. Nice. And we'll introduce this into the leash walking. Good boy. We'll introduce this into the leash walking later on in the series as well too. Billy. But just right now, I just wanted the dogs to feel it in a pretty controlled setting. Let's go. That was nice. If you found this video helpful and you want more videos like it, please subscribe to the channel and we'll see you next time. All right, my boy, you ready? Good. Bye.